Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, and today's class is Introduction to Mac Repair. So repairing Mac computers. Now, everybody knows that Mac is the latest thing. Mac is the greatest thing. Lots and lots of people are going out there and buying Macs, but it's very hard to find good qualified people to fix Macs, and it's really not that hard to do. Mac computers are relatively easy to fix, but they can be a little time consuming. The nice part is if you can add Mac repair to your repertoire of what you can do for your computer repair shop or your business, you can bring in a lot of new clients. So a lot of business clients out there will have one or two Mac computers within their business, and if you can't repair those, you may not get them as clients, whereas if you say, yes, you can fix Mac computers, that puts you a step above many of the other repair people that can only deal with Windows systems. So Mac repair, by and large, is fairly easy. As everybody knows, Macs are relatively stable and reliable, especially from a Windows point of view, but there are things that can go wrong with them. Mainly, the biggest problem with Mac computers when you have an issue with a Mac is that the hardware dies. So whenever you're dealing with Windows computers, the most likely cause of the problem is a software issue, a driver problem, a virus, malware, misconfiguration, just a poorly written program. That is usually your problem when you're dealing with Windows computers. When you're dealing with Mac computers, on the other hand, usually the problem is hardware. So a bad hard drive, a bad keyboard, a bad screen, so on and so forth. Macs generally are more reliable than Windows computers, but just like everything else, these parts do fail. So this class today, what I'm trying to show you how to do is how to start fixing Mac computers. Again, it's very easy. You can go out and become like Apple Care certified, but really you don't have to. A lot of people think for some reason you have to be certified in order to fix Macs. And the deal is that in order to repair warranty work, you do have to be certified to fix Macs. But if the Mac is out of warranty, any Yahoo with a screwdriver is able to fix the Mac, or at least trying to fix the Mac. So that's what I'm going to be trying to show you how to do today. Again, overall it's pretty simple. The main thing that I've found with Macs is, unfortunately, to repair them, they are so well built and so compactly built. The issue is not that it's hard to repair a Mac, but when you do have to replace hardware, it can be about the most tedious, horrible thing you've ever gone through in your life. So it's not difficult. It is just mind-numbingly tedious to do. So with that, let's go over, and basically we're going to go inside this Mac so I can show you some of the stuff. I'm not going to show you the actual hardware repair because there's a website that I like to use called ifixit.com that frankly will show all of that to you anyway. So basically I'm just going to be giving you the overview of how to get all the information you need from your Mac, how to look at the basic utilities in your Mac so that you know what you're dealing with, and then I'm going to show you ifixit.com, which will show you basically how to fix any hardware problems that you have. So let me go here, and we are going to switch over to the desktop view, and so now we are looking at my Mac Mini. So this is my little Mac Mini. Now the one thing to remember, the nice part with Mac computers is that OS X, OS X, the operating system that Apple uses, is generally the same through all of its different generations. So there's been Mac OS X 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, and so on and so forth. But the nice part is unlike Windows, they do not change the user interface every time the new operating system comes out. They simply add functionality and they add features. But if you saw the original OS X and you saw the latest OS X, you would still be familiar with the environment. So what I'm showing you right now, this is like 1 or 2 generations old, but again, if you understand how to use it on here, you will understand how to use it on any OS X operating system. So we are sitting here and we are looking at my Mac computer. Now the first thing you need to do before you start working with the Mac is to figure out what you are dealing with. So you need to know how much RAM the computer has, you need to know what processor it has, what operating system it uses. So one thing with the Mac software is many times it requires a specific operating system. So in order to find this information, all we do is we go up and you see this little Apple icon in the left-hand corner that will always be there. All you have to do is you click on that, and then what you're going to do is select About This Mac. So if I select About This Mac, this now gives me information about this Mac. So as we can see here, this is telling me the version that I'm currently dealing with, 10.7.5. So this is very important. Sometimes with iTunes, especially with people's iPods and iPads and iPhones, in order to upgrade to the latest iTunes, it will require a minimum version of the operating system. So that's what you do, is you look here to see what the version you're currently dealing with. Then you look at the processor, so we can see this is the Mac that has a 1.6 gigahertz processor, i5. Then we look at the memory, so it tells me it has 4 gigs of RAM, 133 megahertz. So we have the basic idea of what is going on here. Now from here, we can go and we can get more information from the little button that says More Information. Now when we click on this, this is going to give us some more vital stuff. Now when we go down, it gives us the processor, the RAM, the graphics. The important thing that it's giving us here though is the serial number. So the serial number we're going to get to in a minute, but this is the most important thing we're going to be dealing with as repair technicians from this screen. Now, we'll come back to that. We can also go over to this little storage tab, and this will show us the hard drive space for this particular Mac. So we can see that in total, this has 121 gigs of flash storage. So basically this has an SSD hard drive in here. And we can see that I have Boot Camp set up on this. What that means is that this dual boots into either Mac OS or into Windows. So we can see that it has a dual boot set up, and then we can see how much of the hard drive space is used. So for the Macintosh side of the hard drive, we can see it has 26 gigs free out of 60 gigs total. Now that we know that, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the overview, and we're going to go and we're going to grab this serial number. So this serial number, it's a serial number, so it's specific for every Mac computer, and it allows us to get very valuable information. So with that serial number, we can open up Safari or any web browser. And the first thing that we can do, again, to make sure that we know what we're dealing with, is we can go to this website, support.apple.com/specs/, and here we can get the specification for our Mac. So I plugged in the serial number into the search area and hit search, and it brings back what Mac I have. So here I can click on this Mac and I can get all of the information so I know what this Mac was like when it left the factory. So it's an 11 or 13 inch mid 2011, and it gives the technical specifications for it. You know, storage, all of that kind of stuff. That is going to be very important in another minute when we go over to iFixit.com. Now we can go and also what we need to look at before we open up this computer, before we futz with anything, before we use a screw. Apple, for the Macs, has a plan called AppleCare. This is their extended warranty plan. So basically, if the Mac is covered by AppleCare, Apple will fix the hardware free of charge. Now, Apple hardware is exceptionally expensive, so if the client can get it fixed free of charge, that is just better for everybody. The thing is, if you open your Mac, if you modify it in any way, AppleCare goes away. You void your warranty. So you never, ever, 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 ever want to change or to open up a Mac if it is still under AppleCare. So what you can do is you can go to the selfsolve.apple.com agreement warranty.dynamic.do. This website, I will give with you a link to it in the notes, and you can put in your serial number. From here, you can click the continue button and it will tell you whether or not your Mac or this particular Mac is still under coverage. So basically, what this is saying is that this was validly purchased, but my telephone support has expired and my repairs and service coverage had expired. So I only bought a 1-year limited warranty on this. There was no additional AppleCare. So this particular Mac is out of the AppleCare warranty program. Every time you touch a Mac, unless you know it's over 3 years old, you need to check this. If you open this thing up and it was still under AppleCare, you have screwed your client very, very badly. So don't do that. Always make sure it is in fact out of AppleCare. Now, if we're having problems with this computer and we need to go and fix it, again, instead of redoing the wheel, what I'm going to tell you guys is you should go over to this website called ifixit.com. www.ifixit.com. Again, as I said, with Mac computers, almost all the problems are always going to be hardware. iFixit gives you step-by-step instructions on how to fix all that hardware. So I've already pulled up the instructions for this particular MacBook Air. So we can see MacBook Air 11-inch mid-2011. See, that's why it's important that we pull up the specifications, because it tells us mid-2011. With Mac, they do a lot of weird things, and just like every other vendor, sometimes although two Macs look identical from the outside, how they look on the inside and the parts they need may be slightly different. So always make sure you pull up the instructions for the right Mac, and then from here you can just select whatever problem you're having. So let's say your airport Bluetooth card has having a problem. All you do is you click on that, and now this is giving you the instructions on how to replace it. So if we scroll down, it gives you very, very nice, again, easy but tedious, literally step instructions. So pull out the screws, pull that thing off, pull this doohickey off, so on and so forth. And of course, they will try to sell you a professional toolkit. You can decide whether or not you want to buy it. So this gives you all of the instructions for what you need to do to fix the Mac. Now, ifixit.com does sell parts. They do sell very good, high quality parts. So if you don't want to mess around with trying to bargain hunt, shop for parts, you may want to buy them here, but you can also buy parts more inexpensively other places. So this is the basic information. So basically you go up to the little Apple thing, you do about this Mac, you get the information about the Mac, and from there you can find all of this other stuff. Now the next thing that we're looking at, since you now know about ifixit.com, you know about how to look for AppleCare warranty, you know how to get the specifications. Of course, with all computers, the one thing that you have to do is update. Now this is very big. We all think for some reason that Microsoft is the evil villain of updates and other operating systems aren't that bad. Apple Macs are horrible for updates. They've got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of updates. So if you're having a problem with your Mac, all you have to do, again, go up to the Apple, click on the software update, and this will go and it will check for updates for the Mac operating system. And it requires a lot. So basically, just like Microsoft comes out with updates once a week, Apple comes out with quite a few updates too. So you should always go there and take a look at the website, at the updates. So once we have done that, so we've looked at basically the specs of the computer, we've looked at how to fix the hardware. The next thing we need to do is we need to go and we need to look at Finder. So Finder is Mac's just like Windows Explorer. So this is the file exploration utility within Mac. So it's always this weird little I don't know, bizarre smiley face thing. Basically, you can open this up and this gives you all the files and folders that are important for you for the computer. So it has all my files, it has AirDrop, it has applications, it has the desktop, it has documents, it has downloads, it has movies, so on and so forth. What we're worried about today for repair is we're going to be going into the applications folder. So in the applications folder, this shows you all of the applications that are installed on this computer. So one of the places that we want to go is we want to take a look at the utilities folder. So utilities folder has what it sounds like, lots and lots of utilities for the Mac. The two utilities we want to look at today are Activity Monitor and Disk Utility. So basically I just double click on the Activity Monitor, and this is just like Task Manager within Windows. So from here we can see how much CPU is being used. We can see how much memory is being used. We can see disk activity, disk usage, and network usage. So basically, this is the task manager of the Mac world. So if you have a Mac computer that's running slowly or things are kind of locking up, this is where you would go to see if it's using too many resources. The next place that we want to go is the disk utility. This is what you use to make sure that your hard drive and your partitions are healthy. So I have this 121 gig solid state hard drive that's partitioned into two partitions, the Macintosh hard drive and the Boot Camp partition. All you have to do for repairs is you highlight the hard drive that you want to deal with, or the partition you want to deal with, and then it gives you options down here at the bottom of the screen. So you can verify disk permissions, you can repair disk permissions. So if you're dealing a lot with permissions, you may need to deal with this. But the big thing when you're dealing with Mac computers is over here on the right hand side, the verify disk and repair disk. This is like the scan disk utility for Mac computers. So if you're having some weird, odd problems, you would click on the verify disk button, it would go through, it would check for any problems on the hard drive, and then if there are problems, you hit the repair disk. There's other options here such as erase, you can also do RAID and restore, but basically the main thing here is on this first aid tab, you would do verify disk and repair disk. So again, if you're having problems, or if you go to double click files and for some reason they don't open, or they become corrupted, I have seen this a lot on Mac computers. They will have corrupted files. You come here, you verify the disk, and you repair the disk, and that's it. So then we can exit out of there. From there, what we want to do is we want to go up to System Preferences. So System Preferences, this is where the settings for the computer are. So this is like Control Panel from the Windows world. Now when we open up System Preferences, there's a lot of different preferences you can mess with. So we can click on General and we can see appearance and highlight color and all that. If we go over to like Desktop, we can change a screensaver. It also gives you the ability to do things like change the dock. So the dock is this bottom part here. So if I want to make the dock small, I can just scroll and make it small. If I want to make it big, I can make it big. I can turn magnification on. So magnification is when it does that, or turn it off. One of the things when you're modifying these settings is, remember, Mac does not have an apply button. It applies everything basically in real time. So if you make any modifications, make sure you remember what you did, because it's not always easy to go back. So there's things like that, language and text, private security, spotlight, all this kind of stuff. Mouse, energy saver, so if the computer is turning off randomly, this may be a problem for you. All of these settings are here. Now the main setting that you need to worry about when you're first learning to fix Mac computers is the network setting. This is really the one that comes around that you have to deal with, because you have to get the Mac computer onto the network, and users being users, if there's one thing they like to futz with, they like to futz with TCP/IP settings. So all you have to do is you come in here to the network, and this gives you your network information. So depending on your computer, this will show you your network interfaces. So I have this Wi-Fi connection, and we go over here and we can see it's connected to my Emmet network, and we can see that Wi-Fi is turned on. So right here, like if they're having a problem with their Wi-Fi, it might be because it was turned off, so you'd want to make sure it's turned on. Now what we do to change the TCP/IP settings is we go down to the advanced button, and from here we can make further modifications. So it says what the preferred networks are here. Then we go over to TCP/IP. So right now it's set for using DHCP. I could go and I could manually change this to use a static IP address. I won't do that right now because then it would kind of cut off this entire training session. So I'll leave it for DHCP. But you can, this is where you would go in and you would either change to a manual IP address or you would change it to a DHCP address. If you change it to a manual IP address, you can then go here to DNS and add DNS servers. So you can add as many DNS servers as you want. They've got WINS, if anybody out there is still using WINS. They've got some other stuff here. And what you guys always love is proxy servers. So you can actually set up proxy servers if you want to use those either for security or to bypass. So I've showed you proxy servers in the past, and normally when I show you how to use proxy servers, I use Internet Explorer. Well, if you're on a Mac computer, this is where you would go to set up those proxy servers. So that's really about all there is to a Mac computer. They are really, 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 really simple. Basically everything is here. The main thing with Mac computers is that you don't want to overcomplicate it. Many people, their biggest problem with Mac computers is that they think they're as difficult as a Windows computer. So when they come here, they're looking for more complicated stuff when it's really, really, really honestly not that complicated. The only last thing that you may want to look at is up here on the upper right hand corner. This is where you see things like whether or not you're connected to the network. This is where you see what your battery condition is, your time, your username, so on and so forth. But that really is all there is to Mac repair. Now, you can't make it much easier than that. So a lot of people are worried about repairing Macs when they really don't have to be. Repairing Macs is, again, simple, but it can be utterly and horribly tedious as hell. The important thing to remember with Macs, and we'll have more classes on Mac repair, is generally when there is a problem, it is a hardware problem. The hard drive died, the screen died, so on and so forth. Now the one thing that I'm going to warn you about, I'm going to give you the Eli warning here. This is an Eli, the computer guy, real life warning, so if you don't listen to me, you're just being dumb, right? One of the problems you run into when you go out to buy parts for a Mac computer on the open market is sometimes they will sell you technically the right part, but even when you get it, it will be unusable for you. So one of the reasons you want to go to iFixit.com and see what they suggest for buying the part is they will show you at least the part you need to buy. The problem is especially with these MacBook Airs. You see how thin the cover of this MacBook Air is? Well, the issue is if somebody drops something on this screen and breaks this screen, when you go to replace the screen, to buy a replacement, basically, you may run into quote-unquote legitimate fraud. The reason is because if you go out and all you do is you buy the LCD screen, the screen itself, right? And that will cost you, let's say, $150. The problem is, if all you do is you buy the screen, there's no way to disassemble this panel to actually replace the screen. You simply can't do it. They fuse this panel together. So you will have bought a replacement screen that in fact cannot be replaced. So iFixit.com will show you the part you need to buy, and you'll find out you have to buy this entire piece. The difference is if you're just trying to replace the screen, you can buy a screen for $150. Although you can't actually replace it, that's all it will cost. If you want to replace this entire component, this entire lid, it will cost you $700. That's going to be your cost inexpensively. Inexpensively, it's going to cost $700. So this is something you have to be very, 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 very careful about, because a lot of people accidentally buy the wrong parts, and then if you buy the wrong part for your client, Well, the client's not going to pay for it. That's one thing, especially with buying any of these components, where I showed you that this particular MacBook is a mid-2011 version. True story, I was fixing a MacBook Pro. I accidentally bought the wrong model year for the cover, for the keyboard thing. So if you want to replace the keyboard, you don't just replace the keyboard, you have to replace the entire lid thing, right? Cost me $300, my cost, $300 out of my pocket. And then when I went to replace it, I found out that inside, on the outside it looked the same, but on the inside it was completely different. And basically I was not able to return the part, and I lost $300 on that repair that should have netted me a couple $100 profit. That is a big thing with the Macs, is be careful of the hardware you buy. If you buy the wrong hardware, you got nobody to blame but yourself. So the main thing is go in, click on that little apple, do the about this Mac, see the information about the Mac. Make sure you know when it was built, what one you're dealing with. Make sure it's not under Apple Care. Then go to iFixit.com to see what you need to do to fix it. Again, even if you don't buy the parts at iFixit.com, I find them very good. So if you're not going to fix Macs very often, if you're only going to fix like one Mac a month or one Mac every 2 months, I would say just buy the parts from iFixit.com because they are a quality vendor. And you're not going to run into any kind of weird hinky problems. If you're going to be fixing Macs a lot, you're going to be fixing a couple Macs a week, then go out, and there are vendors out there that are less expensive. But basically, you go to iFixit.com, they will tell you the exact part you need to buy. Either buy it through them or buy it through somebody else. I showed you all the stuff, like so going through, looking at the version of Task Manager, looking at the disk utility, looking at system preferences. Again, the main thing with Macs is just don't overcomplicate it. They are not as complicated to use as Windows computers, good and bad. The biggest problem with Windows users when they go into Macs is they just think that there's going to be all this extra work to do, and so they cause problems for themselves by not realizing how simple all of it really is. So yeah. So that's all there is to Introduction to Mac Repair. We will have some more classes in the future, but this should give you a nice solid basis for fixing Macs. Again, don't be scared of them. Remember, my last word on it. It's easy, but tedious. You saw when I was scrolling through iFixit, all those little screws. You got to pull out all those little screws and put all those little screws right back in the right place. If you're somebody that's good at doing that kind of stuff, Mac Repair is a very, very easy little niche that you can do to really add a bottom line to your tech business. So, as you know, I am Eli the Computer Guy over here for EliTheComputerGuy.com. This was Introduction to Mac Repair. As always, I enjoy teaching this class and look forward to seeing you at the next one.